Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Monday night panel. Hope you've all had a brilliant bank holiday for the Queen's Jubilee, and you're back at work, or if you had to work over the weekend, hope you have some time off now. So we've made our first signing with Sando de Michel, I hope I've pronounced that right, as our technical director. So we're looking good from that perspective. So let's bring Vic on. Hi, Vic.
Hi, Chris. How are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. You're back from your travels, I understand, from Norway?
I am back from my travels from Norway, yes. It was a bit of a nightmare getting home again, but never mind.
And how did you fit Jan Åge Fjørtoft into your suitcase? Was it easy or not?
Well, I had to leave a few bits in the hotel room, but yeah, I've got him back here. He's
Fair
fine.
enough. Well done. To play up front for us next season with a bit of luck.
Yeah.
Marvellous.
Yes. Right, shall we get the panel on? So we've got Andy, Liam, Anna and James. So let's get the panel on and get this started. So hi, Andy.
Evening.
Hi, James. Hi, Anna. And hi, Liam.
Chris,
Right,
Chris, before you go, I've got a message here from Nick Smith. Hello to you, Nick. Can we ask tonight for an update on the scenes after Port Vale? Has there been any reply from Port Vale or the police?
Okay.
You sent a letter, did you not,
Yes.
regarding the incidents? And have you had any news?
Yeah, so I can answer on behalf of the OSC. We sent various emails to Port Vale themselves, to the police, to the EFL. We've had very limited response. We've had a few, we are investigating this and we'll get back to you kind of emails, but nothing in concrete. I can't speak on behalf of the club if they've sent anything or that, but certainly from the OSC, no, we haven't. We have a committee meeting on Wednesday. It's on the agenda to look at that, so we'll look at the next steps that we take to get that, because what we don't want to do is just brush it under the carpet and hope it goes away. So we will be looking at the next steps that we need to escalate that to if we have to.
And I know you've got an advisory board meeting tomorrow, so I would assume it might be discussed there. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be something said about it. I'm there with James as well, so yeah, I'm sure there'll be something. And
James, has the trust had anything, or are you in the same situation as the supporters club?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same position. I don't believe it seems to be quite frustrating and quite slow from the police force up there. Obviously, the only thing we know, which I think we mentioned on last week's panel, was that obviously their manager got fined, didn't he? But other than that, the actual crowd trouble, nothing at all.
Fair enough. Okay, well, we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
As Andy said to me yesterday, there were people on their pitch again yesterday because Robbie Williams was there, wasn't he? So there we are. Right.
Okay, I will leave you to it. I'm doing the questions and everything tonight, so bear with me. But do leave anything in the comments box and I will get through them as quickly as we can. Okay?
Chris, thanks very much indeed. Thank you. And we'll ask you at the end regarding feedback from fans about ticket prices, because both the trust... Oh, she's back again.
I'm back here. Yes.
Do you want to do it
now? Yeah, I think this is the same as the trust. We've collated all the feedback that we had. We sent out to our members, but what we did say in there is that if you are also a member of the trust, don't do both, just do one or the other. So we've collated them all together. We'll present that to the advisory board tomorrow. I know that the trust have done exactly the same, and we've come up with virtually the same feedback with regard to ticketing. Junior prices are too big, town end prices, until the facilities are improved, they can't expect to pay that much. We also asked about programs and hospitality. So programs was the proposal was to put them up to £5. People have said they will not buy at that price. That is much bigger than any of the other clubs. So we've put in a recommendation from all the feedback we've had, say £354 would be probably the most that they would pay. And hospitality, with the increase in that, the general consensus is the pricing individuals out, and it will be businesses and corporate that can afford to pay that. So so that's what we'll go back with. We have collated all the answers with every comment there was, and so we'll send that to the club as well, but we've just done a summary like the trust did with theirs. We've just done a summary of that. So
lovely. Okay, thank you very much indeed, Chris. Yeah, smash it.
And I am going this time.
All right then. Okay. Right, welcome Andy, James, Liam and Anna. Just to reiterate that, James, those of us who are trust members had an email today regarding the findings of that, with some lovely pie charts in it. So basically, do you go along with what Chris has just said?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we covered off kind of pretty much the same areas. We did include catering as well at the ground, which I don't think the OSC one did. But yeah, I mean, largely, I think, you know, we had scores out of 10 ultimately. You know, and a lot of them certainly around the ticket pricing for next season kind of came out fairly low in terms of the, you know, the kind of the increase in costs. Certainly in the town end was one of the bigger ones, really, I think, that was kind of coming through. But yeah, ultimately we've also put a set of recommendations to the club, which was obviously part of that summary document that we sent out last night. So we've also shared that on social media today with a link to our website with the content of all those results. So any fans that want to have a look at it can do. It's very comprehensive. I should thank Alex Pollitt and of our kind of vice chair, and also Keith and a few of the other members as well that have kind of worked on that survey. But yeah, very comprehensive, and it's gone through to the club. And I'm at the advisory board with Chris tomorrow, so we'll talk about it with the club. So and see what we get from that ultimately. But you know, hopefully we can have a kind of a bit of a debate and a conversation on it, and try and come to some kind of compromise maybe on some of the things that people have fed back that they're not necessarily happy with. So yeah, all good.
Okay, lovely. Hello, Kerry. Mum and sister are keen. They're watching from Florida. So hello to you in Florida, where it is now, let's have a look, 2:05 in the afternoon, I think, if I remember rightly. Right, Andy, hello. Anna, hello. Liam, hello. Liam, we haven't spoken to you, I don't think, since the playoffs, have we? Are you over it yet?
Just about. Yeah, good. Thanks for asking me that. I didn't get to Port Vale like you guys. I watched it from Ireland with my mother hearing me ranting and shouting and everything else. Yeah, I've just about over. It was Swindon Town, isn't it? It's funny. I was thinking the very first time I was on this, I was so cocksure that we were going to go up. I remember being very confident about promotion. And I'll tell you when it was. It was the Monday night before we played Rovers, I think it was, after we'd beaten Port Vale. And then, of course, I think the season changed after the Rovers match, because Ben Garner didn't. I think he went conservatively and he went for the draw. And I think we should have beaten Rovers that day. And then our season would have been different. And I think their season would have been different. And I know we don't go into one match doesn't make a difference. But it's interesting that you remember in January, we were going through a great run after the Man City match. And then it all went a bit. So I am looking forward to next season. I'm feeling confident. I haven't seen the Johnny Williams goal, but I gather it was a cracker. I've been in Cardiff today, and they're buzzing. For some reason. So I've been at my office, which is in Cardiff, and two of the guys were at the game yesterday and said it was amazing, absolutely amazing.
We should say congratulations to Johnny Williams and the Wales squad. He didn't come on, I don't think, yesterday, did he? But I was trying to watch two games at once yesterday. It was a bit bizarre. I was watching the National League playoff and that one, so it was all a bit odd, really. So we should say congratulations to Grimsby, and we're looking forward to Cleethorpes on a Tuesday night. Great. What's not to like? So well done to Wales. It's first since 1958. This is an extraordinary thing. Anna, hello to you. We have a new technical director, so appointments are being made now.
Yeah, so how do we say his name? Go on, remind me. I was going to say it in a more
I think it's Sandro Di Michele. I'm going to go with the Italian bit. I might be I think so. I'm just going to go a bit wrong. I might be wrong, but hey, you know, I've been wrong before.
We should say Eccellente then, shouldn't we, I suppose?
We should say what?
Eccellente. Anyway, It's obviously
Yes.
lost on this audience. But, well, you know, we've been waiting 10 days or more, haven't we, to hear something come out of the club, and this is a pretty positive appointment by all accounts, quite highly regarded. Apparently on short contract with Wigan, hence leaving that venue. So yeah, data-driven recruitment, broader remit than Ben Chorley. And we've discussed a bit of that already pre coming on, but yeah, we need to move things on, don't we? Because we see left, right, and centre other clubs are signing players on, and we can't sit on our hands and wait for the scraps at the end of the window. So hopefully this will be the start of something much more positive than we've seen in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Andy, your reaction to this?
Very pleased. I mean, with respect, I didn't know Ben Chorley's qualities, and he proved to be, I thought, quite an astute signing. And it was important to get someone over the line quite quickly, certainly a lot earlier than it was last year. And the fact that we've got the technical director, director of football, call him what you want, in early, and he can do a lot of the work now, whilst they put the final touches to whomever the manager is likely to be. So I suppose the manager or the coach will, he does the stuff on the grass, but it's vitally important that we get the technical director nailing down those guys that have been offered contracts, looking at the loan signings, and of course looking at any potential new signings. So yeah, that's really good news. Really good news. And he comes, comes with a certain amount of pedigree. Liam might allude to that a bit more from what you were saying earlier, and also, he was part of a very, very successful team last year, weren't they? Because Wigan were as bad as us the year before last, weren't they? And look what they did. So yeah,
it's interesting. And we should say you said about the coach, because in the terminology used in the press release from the club was head coach. So that's the route, I guess, we're going down, as opposed to manager. It might be terminology, it may not be. Let's have a look. Right. James, I don't know if you've seen this from Jason, but can I throw this one at you, and let's clear up last week, because I'm heartily fed up to the back teeth of the fallout from last week. I don't know about you. The statement that you made last week, which you stated was on behalf of STFC, I've been advised by the trust that it wasn't. It was answers to questions at a meeting with Rob and Clem. Can you put the record straight? Just to clear it up and get rid of it.
Yeah, it was just, it was essentially Clem providing us with details, because there was no, the club was kind of running on a skeleton staff last week, and ultimately lots of people are on holiday. So he just asked us to share some information in order to try and help fans, really. That was all we were trying to do, was trying to help fans understand a little bit about where things were. So, yeah.
Let's draw a line under that then, because personally, I'm quite happy to. Right, and I'll take whatever fallout comes from that, if you wish. Right, let me ask you this question then, because it's a biggie. This is from Pete Marsh. Hello, Pete. What does the title technical director entail? Does it mean the head coach is actually the team manager, as opposed to the director of football? Now, we were discussing this beforehand, and in the press release of the club, it says he's in charge of recruitment, he's in charge of the medical side of it, he's in charge of basically everything, pretty much. What do you know, James?
Yeah, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there. Director of football kind of gives you a bit of an idea of what their responsibility is. It's purely football in terms of recruitment. Obviously, the technical director role has a bigger scope. It's very continental, I think, in the approach, in the sense that it's looking at the medical side, it's looking at the academy, it's looking at lots of different areas. Obviously, recruitment is a key part of that. And as has already been said, I think there's a bit of a pedigree there, certainly from the Wigan days. He essentially brought in pretty much a brand new squad at Wigan within 6 months, and we all know in 2021 how well they did. So I think that's a good thing. But yeah, bigger scope, and I think also it would appear that the technical director is a little bit more commercial as well, i.e., not just football related. It's bridging that gap between the kind of football side of things and the commercial side of the business. So working closely with Rob and Matt you know, on the kind of day-to-day running of the business and bridging that gap just between football and all the other pieces. So, you know, bigger, wider scope, but ultimately still responsible for, you know, probably one of the most important things, which is obviously the recruitment, which is obviously, we know we've got to do some this summer. So, you know, a very important part of that remit. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, I've got to say, we did ask if he could come on tonight, but it was said that it's his first day in the post, so he's not really got his feet under the table. So, but he will come on at some
Probably
point.
wanted to find his trousers as well, didn't he?
Sorry?
Did he want to find his trousers as well, so he didn't do a salve?
Oh yes, the pink moment. We'll never forget it, will we? It was just a classic, really. Let's have a look. Nick says, "Do we know why he left Wigan, especially as they've just been promoted?" I think he was only on a short-term contract.
6-month contract, isn't it?
Yeah,
he was on a very short contract, and I think and then he's obviously gone on to set his own business up and provide consultancy and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah.
Malcolm says, loving the Sandro Di Michelli appointment. I'm going to continue to do that until I'm told differently. Hello to Mitchell. I think playoffs should be binned. Being a Swindon and Scotland fan, it wasn't fun. I'll tell you what, if you're a Solihull Moors fan yesterday, that wasn't fun either, was it? Not that I am, but I mean, you know, it would have been a shorter trip, let's face it. Based on what you know, does the new director, Sandro Michelli, offer differently to Ben Chorley? Well, I think we've answered that one, Callum. I hope we have anyway. Let's have a look. Marcus says, Clem goes home this week. Surely it's got to be sorted by then. Well, I'm sure they're working very hard on that, and we'll get an update on that in a minute. Liam, you had some information about the new technical director, I think, didn't you?
Well, it's the first time ever I've looked at a football guy via LinkedIn. So when he goes into his LinkedIn profile at some point, he's going to see that he's been stalked by me. But I like his quote here that says, "I possess a wealth of experience in managing recruitment projects for leading EFL and Scottish Premiership clubs." This is what he says. "I utilise expertise within data analysis and team performance metrics to enhance the talent identification process." So he's clearly got an academic background with those fine choice of words. He's got an 18-year background in the betting industry, and those guys have got the world's best at analysis and data. So that's what I'm talking about, really. So he's not a footballer. He's not got the background of playing. Bit like some well-known Chelsea managers and Man United managers over the years, but he does look. It's impressive. I'm looking at him thinking he's like a COO, to be honest, Chief Operations Officer. That he's part of that senior management team, and I suspect that he'll sign off, won't he? Somebody will be recommended to him. He'll do the analysis. He'll look at all the metrics, and then say whether he's suitable or not for us.
Well, here's an interesting point. Let's go around the panel. Anna, what do you think about this question? I know you wanted to say something, Andy. I haven't forgotten.
No, he's got a bachelor of science in sports science.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Well, that helps on the medical side of it as well, doesn't it? So Paul says, what happens if the new manager doesn't want or like the signings made? Surely signings will have to wait until the manager is appointed. I guess, Anna, if we're going down the head coach route, then it's a coach role. I don't know, but that would be the obvious thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you want to assume that anyone coming into that head coach role is coming in eyes open, and they know exactly what that technical director role is. You wouldn't want to bring somebody in who thinks they're going to manage the whole shebang and be responsible for recruitment themselves. But you'd also hope that the head coach would have some input into what they're doing, because it's going to be the coach who's going to decide, formation, style of play, etc. So there has to be a bit of a balance, but they must be looking at that when they're drawing up the shortlist, which I'm sure they already have for the coach role. Someone with a bit of experience, but not too much, would be my guess. And someone you won't have to pay compensation for is also something I think is probably likely.
Yeah. Yes. Well, of course, we don't know yet what's happening with that. James says, are there any names we would rule out now we have a technical director again? Some wanted Di Canio back. I very much doubt if he will come in with any kind of DOF in place, as he would want his own recruitment.
Never go back.
It's not going to happen anyway, I don't think, is it? Lee says, I reckon a coach is lined up knowing Clem, but they can't announce it. In what other industry would the Ghana situation be allowed to continue? I believe the situation should be reported to the EFL. Charlton know he's contracted to us, so are holding out to pay less compo to us. Anthony says similar project to Brentford's approach. Yeah, I'm not terribly up with the Brentford thing, but I think that's right, isn't it? Whereby Thomas Franks is like the head coach,
Yeah,
and there is a director, a football technical director. Again, it's the continental approach, isn't it?
it is. Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I think
very data driven. Yeah.
Yeah, Brentford is very much
Very
much
like
a
that.
good alignment. Yeah.
Simon Batchelor says Moneyball. Now, I've seen that term used a lot, and for those unfamiliar with that phrase, it goes back to a baseball whereby I can't remember the name of the team now, and it's really annoying me. Whereby they hired a lot of players who weren't knock your socks off players; they were below a certain salary level, and they came in and had a really successful season. And it is
It's a
possible
film
to
as
put.
well, right?
Sorry,
It's a
What was it, Anna?
film.
yeah, it
It's
is a film. Yes,
Yeah.
but it's based on
I'm
a
being
true
told.
story. Yeah. 4 words.
Charades on Monday.
If we run out of things to talk about, we know what we can do at the end. Hey.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. Well, actually, one suggestion was made to me earlier this week. If we have run out of things to talk about, we could always go around making the most ridiculous suggestions as who might be our head coach. So somebody's facing a vote of confidence tonight. Who knows? He might be out of a job soon. Anyway, let's not talk politics. Let's have a look. Right. Emma says, be good for money to be spent on the town end ladies' toilets. They are awful. Surely the advertising revenue from programs would be self-funding. Hi all, looking at the clubs we are playing next season, the bank isn't going to be used. Will the club be cracking on with that redevelopment? Interesting point, James. Are they?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's no. I mean, if you look at the map that's been put onto the socials over the last, I think it was yesterday, wasn't it? It was quite obvious. There's definitely there's a lot more travelling. I think we commented on it as well, Vic. And there's a lot more travelling involved for the away games. And but yeah, ultimately, there's a distinct lack of, I suppose, kind of big games for us in terms of local sides. I guess Gillingham would probably be maybe the only one that you would call some form of kind of local derby as such, but there are still some big teams in League Two, and I think certainly if we start off well, you've only got to see this season some of the attendances we've had against actually some of the less exciting teams or the less bigger teams in the league. So I think the bank, the idea is still to continue certainly with that. Yeah.
Okay. Right, let's go back to Moneyball. And Chris has very kindly sent this to me. Centres on the 2002 Oakland Athletics baseball team, which were led by the general manager Billy Bean, to an excellent season, despite having the lowest payroll in the major leagues. In addition to scouting and more conventional methods of assembling a team, Bean introduced statistics and mathematical analysis into player evaluation to the chagrin of many traditionalists. And he also was headhunted by the Boston Red Sox, so he'd had a very good year with it. So that is Moneyball. So that's how it works. Charles says, if Scott Twine gets sold to MK Dons and we get a sell on, has the club indicated what they will do with any potential money? Can't answer that question.
No.
Don't know. So Andy, your take on where we are at the moment. It's been, let's be honest, it's almost 2 weeks now since this all blew up. Where do you think we are?
I suppose the positive is that this is a sort of like the quiet time, isn't it? All the staff, footballers, management, they're on holiday. And if you only got to look at, very little sort of transfer dealings are actually done at this time. Obviously things are getting lined up. So, but I was looking back and at the end of season I asked Ben Chorley and Ben Garner when they actually were in the building. And it was the Wednesday before the Weymouth game. I think that was July the 24th. And we played Scunthorpe on the 7th. And anyone that was there that day, apart from the emotional side, we were very organised. I know Scunthorpe went down and they were a very poor team, but I thought was very impressed just how organised we were. So that was in that short period of time. So we have got, we've got, if you like, half, if probably more than half of the problem solved. So I'm a lot happier than I was probably 24 hours ago, and I'll be even more happier when they announce the coach, and then we can really start motoring and getting things ready.
Yeah, I think Andrew Hall said there are 3 more free Saturdays before the first pre-season friendly, which is either scary or great, dependent on your view, really. I think it's
but one of them's Melksham, and we only need 6 players for that, and about 8 trialists. So that'll be all right, you know.
Yeah, it should be a cracking day. It's always great to go there. We've got a question here for Liam. What is the shirt behind you? I've been trying to figure it out, actually. What is that shirt?
I'm starting a campaign for us to twin with a team in Turkey. It's Fethiyespor. So those people that have been to Fethiye on holiday, a genuine Fethiye shirt for £7, bargain. They've just been promoted to the 3rd level of the Turkish league, having won the playoffs, and everybody came out. So Fethiye is 50,000 population. I think it'd be perfect twinning for us. I'm aware of about 3 Swindon exiles living over there who are supporters. So I thought I'd stick it on just to just for the very question that you've done. So thank you, Vic.
Well, I was really I was trying to think. Is it whose away kit is that? And now obviously
the advertiser sponsor is a private hospital. And those that know me, my background's health and social care. So there's a certain irony of having that on a football shirt, really.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. Tom says, makes sense to redevelop the bank so that people in the town end can move to there while the town end is redeveloped. Lots of stuff coming in. Have the supporters club, etc., had any feedback yet from Port Vale? Well, we kind of asked that at the beginning of the thing, Paddy, and not yet is the answer. All the Port Vale police seem to be saying is keep an eye on the Staffordshire police for updates. So I think no is the answer at the minute. From that point of view. Right, let's go to where we might be in the season then. I mean, we've got Grimsby now. We know the whole thing is complete. Andy, it's a lot of travelling for you. You live in Dorset, a neighbouring county to where I am. It's a lot of northern trips, as we've mentioned.
I didn't catch that. Did you say you went a bit frozen? Did you say a lot of travelling, did you say?
A lot of travelling, especially from Dorset, the next county to where I am. It's a lot of travelling.
Yes, yeah, it is. It is. You know, that graph, that map that was put up. You think, oh my goodness me. You know, the nearest one's is it Newport? I think.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we've got a couple more around the London area, sort of Wimbledon, Gillingham, and things like that. But yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? I'm looking forward to Barrow on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, this is the thing, isn't it, James, that we are bound to get some horrible fixtures on a Tuesday. It's kind of bound to happen, really, isn't it?
I don't think we can avoid it these days, can we? Because there's so many kind of long distance trips, and maybe to some very lot smaller grounds. I think there's going to be quite a few of them. I think, and it's funny actually. One of my trust colleagues said to me the other day, "I think I need to buy a new car." I said, "Why do you need to buy a new car?" Basically, because all these long trips we've got to do, I don't trust my car to get me there. So, And when I suggested maybe look at the electric route, he was like, "Not sure that's going to work, given the range on electric cars." So anyway, but yeah, it's there's going to be a lot of travelling, and with the fuel prices at the moment, it's going to be expensive as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think SAS travel always a good option, of course, if you use the bus. Anna, are you looking forward to those long Tuesday nights away? I mean, they are going to be, Grimsby, Barrow, Carlisle. One of them is bound to be a Tuesday, isn't it? We know that, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I've done Grimsby on a Tuesday night before, and it's pretty horrific. I don't think my personal record at Grimsby is up to much, having missed the win in the Wellands Championship season. It is what it is. Perhaps I'll be a bit more focused this season on the home record and home form. That would be good, I think. We were especially, I'd say lucky, but we had a tremendous away season this season, didn't we, really, winning 13 games. And I struggle to believe we can be as good and as consistent, if you like, away from home this season. So, but there's some exorcism to do. I think there's some exorcism at Barrow to do for me personally. So that's going to be a top tip. But as Andy said, it is what it is. You've got to get on with it. And it's not going to be any easier next season as it was this season. To be honest, there's going to be some very strong teams with a lot of money behind them.
Yeah, I am particularly keen to reintroduce myself to the Iron Bar, who I managed to bang my head on getting out of the away seats at Barrow, which wasn't a pleasant experience. Andy says even worse for us Kent Reds, Gillingham apart. Yeah, that's a lot of old treks. Liam, obviously, looking at it financially for a lot of people, this is going to be a hard season to follow home and away, isn't it?
Anna, will you do all 46 again?
No, I already know. You already know that we've got a nephew's wedding, so the answer's no, unfortunately.
Exactly, yeah, because it's nephew's wedding in August, isn't it? It's tough, and it's tough. Don't forget, the cost of travelling. 180 odd a litre of petrol, or the travel club's going to have to recoup its money as well, isn't it? Everything's going to go up. It's going to be, and if their prices go up, because the other thing is, don't forget I'm sure other clubs will be putting their prices up for away fans as well. It's going to be a tough all year for everybody, to be honest. I don't think the numbers will be. I don't think our average away numbers will be as good as last year, which is a real shame.
Yeah, that's again another of the downsides of not going up, wasn't it? Because League One next year is going to be a really southern-based league. But hey, that's the way it is. It's all over with. Michael says, any more news on Charlie Austin coming back to Swindon? Not as far as I'm aware. Right, James, not to put you too much on a spot, but what can you tell us about the current situation without making a statement?
Use that word again.
Disclaimer on James.
Yeah. Indeed. Ultimately, and I know I said the same thing last week. The club are basically saying, look, they're all over it. Rob's now back from holiday. He's working with Clem on it. It's at a very delicate stage for numerous reasons, which I don't think they want to go into. But ultimately, they've got to get. If Charlton want our manager or head coach, and our coaches as well, which obviously has largely been what appears to be the case, then they've got to pay compensation. And if they're not willing to pay the level of compensation that we're looking for, then that negotiation has to continue happening until ultimately they do get what they need. So ultimately, that's where it's at. And obviously, until that's concluded, you can't. They can't announce, their new management team at Charlton, and we can't do the same our side. The interviews have happened for various people our side, and I'm sure we have got someone lined up. But obviously, it's one of those very complex situations, and I don't think it's helped either by the Charlton owner being somewhat non-standard in his approach, shall we say. He does seem a slightly interesting character.
There was a statement that came out from Charlton, I think it was on Saturday, wasn't it, saying that Ben Garner hasn't signed the 2-year deal at Charlton, which was the speculation at the end of last week. It was repeated by TalkSport. I think it was also put on Sky Sport. Lots of speculation, and they came out and denied it.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, it's I think we've already said it's pretty. Ben Garner's gone ultimately, but it can't be kind of the I's dotted and the T's crossed until this compensation piece is ultimately worked out, and it's all about legals and all the kind of stuff that goes with it. So you're not going to get someone saying what's going to happen at their end until everything's sorted, because ultimately they could be held accountable legally for various things if things are not sorted. So it's all very complex, and that's pretty much all I can say, I think, really. We've just got to wait for ultimately for both sides to agree everything and for everything to move forward. And we all know Clem's a hard taskmaster. He won't let them take our assets without getting compensation ultimately for them. So quite rightly, I think, we in the past, when we've had players leave or managers leave, we've kind of bent over backwards almost and sent them packing without asking for anything in return. And I think, quite rightly, Clem's a businessman and he's not going to let them go for free. So,
okay. And a couple of other questions for you. Alan says, how close are we to getting details of shares in the county ground? And Pete says, what's the latest on the ground purchase? Any ETA for this? Because I think we said on many occasions that, you know, the legal I's are being dotted and the T's are being crossed. Is that still the case? And we're just waiting for the keys to be delivered? That's basically it.
It is. It's unfortunately, I know it sounds pretty dull and pretty much like a broken record, but yeah, it's still with the lawyers sorting out all those kind of details. There's no issues. It's just taking a bit longer, as always the way with these things. In terms of the shares, we are, and I think we gave a bit of an update, or we will be giving an update at this advisory board tomorrow, which obviously everyone will better read in a few weeks' time when the club release those meeting notes. The trust are in the process. We've got a board meeting on Thursday. We're looking to launch a brand new website, basically a brand new trust website, bringing together all of our sites into one. But ultimately, one of the key elements on that is the share issue that we want to launch. And we want to do that through a new website ultimately. And that's going to be, we're hoping it's going to be in place by the middle of July. We just need to get a sign off from the board on Thursday for that, for the cost of that. And then ultimately, that's when we'll look to, when the new site goes live mid-July, that's when we'll look to get the information on the site about the share issue for the county ground. And obviously then we'll promote that through social channels, through, you know, the advert and various other, obviously this channel and other things as well. So fans can ultimately purchase those shares and with all the information on it. So that's the kind of timescale on the shares. Obviously the county ground purchase, I don't think there's a definitive date on that at the moment. It'll take as long as it takes, but you know, we're not far away. And I know I've said that before, but unfortunately over the last year and a half with all these legal things, I've come to realise, as the rest of the trust board have, that sometimes you can't put a timescale on some of these legal things because we all know it takes a while sometimes to get these things sorted, and it's difficult to put a timescale on it. But there's no issues; it's all going fine. It's just we just need to get it over the line.
Okay. Carl says all this background noise on BG, Ben Garner, will get sorted. I'd imagine the grass isn't growing under anyone's feet and things are moving along nicely out of sight. I'm liking the infrastructure stuff. Several positives already. Shop upgrade, sprinkler system, etc. Optimistic about 22-23. If you're a Swindon fan, you can't be optimistic. We're not allowed to do that. We don't do optimisms. Malcolm says Charlton of today issued a statement effectively stating what James has said. Claire says, hello, Claire. I do find the situation all very interesting. And like you say, James, Charlton's approach not great. What will happen if they can't pay the compensation? Surely Garner's position became untenable, doesn't it? Ian says, in view of the thinking on the ticket price increases, are we asking for too much compensation? Ultimately, we will suffer if we are late sorting this. Alex says, hello, Alex. I think they have the money. Their chairman just doesn't like spending it. And Brad says, if Charlton don't want to pay us a lot in compo, there's a player called Jai Simi, who I think would be a fair swap for Garner. Well, I think we'd all welcome him back. Andy, Ben Garner, I mean, ultimately he's gone. We're all pretty much sure that he's gone. But if this situation gets so sticky that he doesn't go, what would be your feeling?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? We've had this conversation a few weeks back, was at the stage where we knew that he'd been interviewed. And there was sort of various sort of discussions about whether people would be prepared to have him back as a manager. But I mean, there's a little bit more water passed under the bridge there. I mean, technically, if it all fell apart, he's still contracted to Swindon, isn't he? And unless he's actually formally resigned, which I don't believe he has, then he'd technically still be our coach, wouldn't he? I can't see that just wouldn't be good, would it? But if it happens, you just got to get on with it, haven't you? And there's a new technical director. And again, you've got to just look at all the positives and say, well, if he had to stay, then we would have the players that he's worked with. I know there's a lot of people out there who are quite glad to see him go. They didn't like his style. They didn't like the way he did. But from a personal point of view now, I think the ship has sailed. And I just wish, let's just get on, get someone new in. Got a new technical director. Let's get on and get someone else in and move on. You know,
Anna,
I think this will all be resolved quite quickly. From
Anna, what would be your view? I kind of think I know what it might be.
Yeah, do you? Okay. You know, I think you might have done the sour grapes bit last week. I think, and I'm all for that. You know, if a manager doesn't want to be at Swindon Town, then he should move on. I'm disappointed that I am a Garner fan. I was a Garner fan, based on what he achieved with us this season, with, you know, a lot of obstacles in his way, if you like. But if a manager is not committed to the club, any club, then the situation becomes untenable, doesn't it? Really. If it did transpire that for some reason, you know, Charlton are not going to take him, he's not going to go, then I think it'd be a very hard road back for him. To be honest, there was already divided opinion, wasn't there, on whether he was the right man for the club, and I think a lot of people will be glad to see the back of him. I don't think there's any way back. Let's hopefully get that bit done, move on, and see how long he lasts at Charlton. And, you know, maybe it won't be that long. We'll see.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Liam, your view on that?
Yeah, I don't think he didn't do very well at Bristol Rovers either, did he? Before he came to us, I think he's been premature leaving us, and I think Charlton have been premature in their selection. Don't forget they gave Johnny Jackson, their hero, an ex-loanee with us. Let's just
change tack a little bit, because Charlton haven't actually done the deal. Let's say what a fantastic manager Ben Garner is. Charlton would be absolutely mad not to take him, and he'd be a snip at twice the price.
They won't be watching this, Anna. They won't be watching this.
Do you want to be involved in negotiations, Anna? I think you should be.
Yeah.
His position's untenable, Vic. I'm with everybody here. There's a conflict of interest now. His heart's not with us. And if the rumor is that he's cleared his office out, then he's already gone anywhere, hasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, how do you feel? I mean, the worst thing I think, Liam, is the fact that this was allegedly going on during the playoffs, which, you know, people move on. They get other jobs. We all get that. We all understand that from time to time. But whilst you're supposed to be concentrating on possible promotion for your football club, I couldn't quite get my head around that.
Yeah, you're right. We've had a few players over the years like that, haven't we? That had already left us by the time they were into the playoffs. Billy Painter, for example. What's his name? That went to Brentford. It does query the commitment then, doesn't it? I mean, not Brentford, Port Vale was so prepared, weren't they, for penalties? And we weren't, maybe because he was too busy having interviews with Charlton.
Yeah, it does. James, that kind of hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we know he was formally interviewed on the 21st, which is quite soon after. Obviously, we got bailed out, obviously, by Port Vale at their place. But if you've ultimately, you know, for him to be interviewed, then he's going to have to apply for that. There's going to be been conversations, maybe agents with the club, you know, with Charlton, etc., etc. So yeah, I mean, the idea of him, you know, going into a playoff semi-final, both legs, where he's basically got alternative employment on his mind, and he's no doubt have had to, you know, he would have had to prepare for those interviews, probably had to give a presentation like most managers do have to these days. You know, that just makes me feel sick, if I'm completely honest, Vic. It makes me feel like, you know, you know, he should have been focusing. And again, we don't know the full details, so I'm putting a caveat on assuming that those dates and everything else is correct. But you know, the fact that he would have been focusing on that, you know, the application for that role while we were in the playoffs doesn't sit well at all with me, to be honest.
No, I think that would be the case for most people. Let's have a look at this. Claire says, my husband could fill the head coach post. He manages Croft under 12s. He'd do it for £10 a week. There you go. Deal done. Joe says, I agree with Liam Scanlon. His football knowledge is excellent. Joe Merriman says. Whether that's a private in joke or not, I'm kind of guessing it is.
I think he's being
ironic. James says, reminds me of the Hoddle situation, talking to other clubs during the playoffs. Yeah, it's something I just anyway.
It doesn't mean that someone can't focus, though, does it?
You're right. You're right. No, but you would think that
they would go into it not focus.
Yeah, 100% attention should be on the playoffs, shouldn't it? you know,
there's an argument. You can sit there and say the professional in Ghana and even the club would have been saying, look, you know, well, why in the first place? Why would anyone allow Ghana to talk to anyone? He's under contract. I know you can do, you know, but we would have had to give him authority to speak to Charlton in the first place. And there's a conspiracy theory that the way we played in that second leg was completely the antithesis of what we wanted to do, wasn't it? We needed to get out there on the front foot. We needed to sort of like stymie them, get the crowd quiet, and we did. We played like a home game, didn't we? We were just completely the opposite. We couldn't get on the table, could we? For the first 20 minutes, and it just seemed so different to what we were doing the sort of previous 5 or 6 games. So. You know, the conspiracy theorists can say, well, that was because his head was turned, but I hope not.
Well, I'd throw into the table for that the handball that should have been a penalty, which wasn't given. Changed the course of history, don't you, with that decision? Elaine says, if you look at Garner at Port Vale, he stood there with his hands in his pockets, no passion. Well, I think it's fair to say, Jamie, he wasn't. I was going to say, it was never one to go shouting and screaming on the sidelines anyway, was he?
No, he wasn't. He had his hands in his pockets quite a lot of the time. And I think ultimately, whenever we didn't do very well, whether it be home or away, and we were losing, you know, one of the first things the fans said was, you know, it was always the case. Why isn't he screaming and shouting? You know, why has he got his hands in his pockets? That the body language piece doesn't necessarily give a particularly good representation, really, especially when we're losing. It kind of gives you the impression that he doesn't care. I don't think that's the case. I think it's just him. That's how he is. You know, he's not a screaming and shouting kind of guy. I've met him a couple of times. I don't pretend to know him that well, but from what I've heard about him, he's an extremely professional guy. You know, very, very well organised and prepares exceptionally well for games. You know, a bit like Wellens always did. You know, he was always very renowned for he knew everything about the opposition before the game, and I think players have said that. You know, other people have said that. And I think Garner is very much similar kind of ilk. So I don't think we can say necessarily that, you know, he wouldn't have been prepared for the game. But, you know, it just makes me feel sick that ultimately, you know, he could have been having those conversations potentially while trying to get us promoted. It just doesn't feel right at all. And, you know, if we'd have gone up into League One, you know, we would have been in the same league as Charlton. And okay, they've got a huge stadium. They will have had a bigger budget than us. But, you know, it's they wouldn't have been, you know, he probably would have got a pay rise because he got us promoted. Our budget would have gone up. So you could argue that if he'd have got us promoted, there wouldn't have been a great deal between us and Charlton. Okay, you'd probably argue they're a bigger club, they've got bigger fan base, bigger stadium, whatever. But I don't think there'd have been a great deal between us. And it just feels, I don't know, if you're going to go for a bigger club, you know, then go for a bigger club, not one that's probably only a smaller amount bigger. Do you know what I mean? And that's also got their own issues, really, to be honest, you know, with some of the individuals and setup they've got there. So, yeah, it just seemed all very, very strange.
I guess, you know, a manager stroke head coach will always feel he could be the one to turn it around or whatever situation they're in. Joe says, hello, Joe. It bugs me. Never once wore anything with the Swindon badge on. Mike says, will Harry play with a new manager? Well, only Harry McCurdy can tell us that. I think he's away somewhere. He's been away a lot, I think, following on his Instagram. Helen says, Charlton fan told us Ben Garner was at Charlton on Friday, the day after the playoff. And I hope we approach Cheltenham for Mickey Duff's services. I think he was linked with Blackpool today, if I remember rightly. I don't know. I think that was right. So let's get on to possible coaches. There is a question on here about how do people feel about Ryan Mason. Anna, how would you feel about Ryan Mason?
Oh, I don't know. I would single out any particular names, to be honest. I'm just pretty sure that we won't pay compensation to anyone. So don't go looking at people who are currently employed. There's a whole wealth of things we could go for. I mean, Crawley have just appointed Kevin Betsy, haven't they? So from Arsenal under 18s. So, you know, maybe we'll go for something like that, which is a little bit more under the radar. I can't believe we'd even sniff at Michael Duff, partly because I cannot stand Cheltenham. I'm going to say that. How many other times you want to hear it? Ryan Mason, yeah, maybe you give someone like Ryan Mason a go, but I don't think he'd come to Swindon, to be honest. I think we'll go for someone who possibly will have heard of, who's got a little bit of pedigree but not too much, and again someone who can work with the younger players, and that was what, to be fair, Garner was good at. Ben Garner was good at was bringing through the youngsters and working with what he had and getting the best out of them, and I think that's what we'll look to do again. And I'd be all for that, because bringing players through from not just as loanees, but from our academy as well. Our academy is key, and the technical director appointment is going to, I think, tally with that, isn't it? If he's got some oversight around the academy and looking to beef that up, that's where our future is, I think.
Well, that was in the press release, wasn't it, about the academy? So I would assume it's very much the case. Liam, where do you sit on this? I mean, various names have been mentioned. Paul Kaddish, of course, has been mentioned. Where would you sit with it all?
Yeah, I'd like Ryan Mason because he did a good job and he's got a Swindon link. There again, so is Michael Carrick. So Charlie Austin.
Yeah.
They're throwing them all at the moment, aren't they? Or
so James Milner, for instance.
Yeah. Exactly. But Milner's just signed a new contract today for another year, so he won't be coming. Right. And then Richie Wellens. I don't want to go back. I don't want Richie Wellens back. The greatest respect. He had one good year, and we've had that now. Thank you very much. Garner's out a good year. I think it's time. If you notice, a lot of clubs are doing this now. They're doing exactly what we did last year, which is bring through development managers. Blackpool have just appointed not Blackpool. Blackpool have just lost their manager to go to Villa because Villa's manager's gone to Villa's deputy's gone to QPR. I think we will be looking at somebody who has got under 18s, under 19s, under 20s background. If they've got a Swindon link, fantastic, absolutely brilliant. But if they haven't, just want them to keep the face and hold the badge, wear the badge somewhere.
Yeah, Ryan Mason, he got a hat-trick, didn't he, if I remember rightly, in a 5-1 home win.
One game for England, didn't he, I remember?
Yeah, he did, yeah, and then he got that horrific injury, of course, which ended his career, basically. Paul says, if Richie failed on his first appointment, BG on his, and also Matty Taylor, would it not be fair to assume the latter may be a good choice? Matty Taylor, Andy. I mean, there have been various Matt Taylors bandied about. I don't think the weatherman's going to get it.
Matty Taylor's managerial career with us is a 4-0 home defeat, wasn't it? To Cheltenham. Yeah, it
was Cheltenham. Yeah.
I think what you've got here is if I understand this correctly, you've got two distinctions, haven't you? You've got a manager that has overall control of the footballing side, and a coach who actually does it on the grass, as they say, with a technical director of football. So now we've appointed Sandro today. You've got to look more like on a coaching thing. So that might dismiss a lot of the people that have been put forward. So I agree with Liam and Anne. So I think it's going to be someone that we've not heard of, that's been a development coach in, say, a championship or even a premiership, an under 23s, under 18s, someone like that, who can then come in and has got the ability to coach, the ability to manage the academy, the players coming through, and also work well with the technical director in terms of recruitment. And with some contacts, maybe a little bit of contact. I mean, Garner, to be fair, he had that Crystal Palace connection. He obviously knew Johnny Williams and Manny Egbo. So something like that.
Yeah. Paul says Ryan Mason also missed a penalty in the game. He got a hat-trick for us. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. He could have had 4 in that one. It was a lovely sunny afternoon, if I remember rightly. Where do you sit, James, with that? I mean, I know Matt Taylor, the weatherman, actually. He's a Blackburn Rovers fan. But I seriously don't think it's him. The Exeter City manager has been mentioned as one of the Matt Taylors. I don't think it's him. So that only leaves one Matt Taylor, as far as I know. What do you reckon?
It's all very bizarre, isn't it, about the Matt Taylor one? By all accounts, the bookies have actually referenced, obviously, he was at the top of was towards the top of the kind of betting, and they actually ended up putting both in brackets. I honestly can't believe the Exeter Matty Taylor would necessarily come to Swindon, but I do understand that he's on quite a low salary, and obviously their budget is very, very small, Exeter. So, potentially you would see Swindon as a as a step up, probably a bigger salary and probably even a bigger budget than their League One budget, to be fair. But so you never know. Stranger things have happened. Having chatted to their when we went to Walsall towards the end of the season, having chatted to their development coach and talking about our ex-player Matty Taylor, he wasn't liked at Walsall at all. They basically said that you had one way of playing. It wasn't great. There was no plan B, where we heard that one before. But also, he had no idea about, it was very disjointed, and apparently some of the players didn't particularly like him either. So, personally, although I loved him as a player, maybe as a number 2 we'd be okay, but I don't think as the head coach. I personally agree with what's already been said. I don't think it'll be a big name. I think it'll be some development coach, a Premier League or Championship club. I think, there's been talk of Mark Delaney, who was at Villa as the under-23s coach. I think he's left recently. There's been a lot of talk about him. I think he was on the betting as well. Someone like that, who's well regarded, looking at younger players, managing younger players, and looking for that next step up. I think it's probably more likely to be something. I'd actually quite like Neil Ardley, if I'm honest.
He's done a good job, hasn't he?
He's done an absolutely brilliant job, and he did a really great job at Wimbledon as well. Certainly in the early days, didn't have a great, a really good friend of mine's on the trust at Wimbledon, and he said Ardley was brilliant when he first went there. Just had they had some financial issues, as we all know, and he lost a few players, etc., and then he got the sack ultimately. So, but Ardley's done a great job. So I wouldn't, I'd look at that one. Brian Mason would be lovely. I'm just not sure really. I suspect a big name would probably want full control of the club, and now we've come out and shown our hand and actually put a technical director in place. I think that probably, my gut feeling is that would probably rule out someone like Mason, and more likely be someone like Delaney or maybe even Ardley, someone like that.
Well, and Matt Taylor, who's a regular viewer of this panel, has said, I'd like to throw my hat into the ring with the others. So now we've got
3.
Yeah, 3 Matt Taylors. Plus the meteorologist.
Well, Matty Taylor, our Matty Taylor, he tried to get, a bit of an issue with Kellen Gordon was here, wasn't he? Trying to get him to dance as a forfeit, and he refused, didn't he, if you recall?
Oh.
That's been a bit viral, didn't it, on social media? Yeah.
Goodness. So who actually is responsible for the way we're going to play? The coach or the man that brings in the players? Oh, and by the way, Andrew Barge is an Exeter City fan, says hands off one of the Matt Taylors, not surprisingly. Liam, who would you think is in charge of the way we're going to play? Because that's a very interesting one, isn't it? Because you got a technical director with a head coach, possibly coaches under the head coach. So who is going to be responsible for the playing style?
Depends how hands-on the head coach is, I presume, because an awful lot of assistant coaches seem to be in the training, don't they? In the practice, in the preparation. So it depends on how hands-on this head coach is that we appoint, and how strong they are. That's a simple view, really, isn't it? I think the technical director will allow people to. I hope he gives them some autonomy. Put it that way.
Anna, what would you say about that? Would you agree with Liam?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be astonished if we brought anyone in who's going to play a long ball. I'd be astonished if we bring anyone in who's even going to do long throws. It's likely to be someone who's going to do it the Swindon way, whatever that is. And you'd hope that they're going to partner up with the technical director and have that discussion. It's got to be a two-way street, hasn't it, of communication? So, and I reckon they've already got somebody lined up. Otherwise, they wouldn't have brought in the technical director. It would make sense to do it in tandem, albeit that we can't announce the head coach at the moment.
Well, you've sort of agreed with Marcus, who sent this in. With today's news, do you think that may hint that there's a head coach already lined up? So that would agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Andy, what do you reckon on that?
My personal view is that a coach has to be, he's the one that makes all the decisions. He's the one in the dugout. I mean, the director of football will be sat up in the stand. And I mean, they should obviously have very good communication and a lot goes on behind the scenes. But ultimately, it's the coach. He's the one that's making the decisions at, the substitutions for everything like that, the snap decisions. So he needs to have responsibility, and also a big influence on who we sign, because then he's going to have a style of play, and he's going to want the players to accompany that. So for me, the coach has to have not autonomy, the total autonomy, but very, very large responsibility for it.
Well done, Clem and Rob, says James, for the appointment today. Personally, I feel it's a great appointment for us. I feel that Clem and Rob already have someone lined up. I just can't announce anything because of the legal matters that James touched on, which is we're basically going back to where we were at the beginning. We've kind of done all that in terms of that. What I'm going to say to you now, James, is a lot of praise coming in for Marcus Cassidy and the ground staff. Who are doing a fantastic job. They do it year in, year out, don't they? I mean, we've seen today, I don't know if you've seen this in the news, that Plymouth Argyle's pitch has been churned up by somebody breaking and driving a tractor around.
Shocking, isn't it?
Mess up their pre-season preparation. Yes. I was nowhere near it. I can honestly say that. Oh gosh, David says, if you want a name, how about Alan Pardew? That is a name. And Michael says, I don't care where we get as a manager, as long as it's not John Sheridan. I don't want him to put one step in our club ever again. I don't think that's going to happen. So what about that? Marcus Cassidy does a fantastic job every year, and the ground staff too do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's done a great job, even when ultimately he's had very little money in the Power days, when he had very little money to play with. The pitch was still magnificent. Clem's obviously and Rob are obviously investing in, I think Marcus has come out and said that, Clem's giving him a bigger budget. They've able to get third parties in to try and help them. There's a lot of upgrades going on. I have to say those videos of them, what they're doing, and the kind of day videos, and updates. I find them absolutely amazing. I love it, just to see what they're doing, because I think it's always been a bit of a black art, really, the whole pitch preparation and what have you. But it's interesting to see the kind of stuff they have to do. And I also listened to him on one of those other pods that I'm probably not allowed to mention on this one.
Yeah, it's the Tom Broadbent Lounge. Why not?
I mean, it was really interesting listening to him, and I think he's obviously extremely passionate guy, and I think the fact we're investing in the pitch as well to try and bring it up another notch, another level is brilliant. And you can only. I don't have enough praise for Marcus. I think there's just over the years he's been brilliant, and all the team he's put together there, they've done a great job. And I think we're really, really lucky, and we should make sure we hold on to him because he's brilliant.
Yeah, he's a big Plymouth Argyle fan, if I remember rightly, isn't he?
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah.
Karen says we have the best groundsman. We'll put our pitch against any club. I mean, the thing is, Anna, if you go around, we all go around the country and we see pitches there, compared to 30 years ago, there's like a different planet now. But I think we are very lucky. And if you were a head coach coming into Swindon, you'd be delighted with the surface you have to play on, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I was a bit upset today to see what looked like snow on the pitch when they were the Sandra appointment. But great work done by the ground staff. And you're right, when you look at somewhere like Barrow's pitch, this season just gone, which was absolutely horrendous. Although we are going to have to play on those type of pitches, so you can't just rely on pitches which are smooth and let you play passing football. But I think our style of play is going to be founded partly on the basis that we've got a good playing surface, and we have to pick up the rest of the points on some bumpy old things probably. Yeah,
that appointment wasn't made in December. That was the Germination cover, if I remember right, which looked like snow, didn't it? Yeah.
I came to the same conclusion as Anna as soon as I saw that picture of the technical track. I thought, is it snowing in Swindon today? Because I don't live in Swindon. And then I realised what it was because I'd seen Marcus's video.
Yeah. They made the appointment in December. They just didn't tell us. That's what it was. Yeah, exactly. Liam, I mean, it is a beautiful surface, isn't it? I mean, if you'd want to play football on that, wouldn't you?
It's beautiful. It's great, isn't it? Do you remember there was that rumour about Bath Rugby coming to play with us when we were
the
ground? It ruined our lovely pitch. Marcus and the team do a fantastic job. Even if he is a Plymouth fan, he still does a great job for us, doesn't he? And it creates that wonderful football. exactly what we need for the likes of Payne to re-sign next season and play on that wonderful pitch, don't you think?
Well,
Rather than
I
go
would
to-
imagine, yeah, the technical director will be working on that, I'm pretty sure. And I mean, you know, obviously you go to Somerset a lot and see the care that they put into their pitches and their ground and the amazing work they do when it's raining. It's quite incredible the way they get those covers on. So I think ground staff don't quite get the praise that they deserve, do they?
Not at all. You know, I mean, as they've alluded to, these videos are just, you know, putting it out there, just how good these guys are, and they're getting some, you know, some due reward for their services. And it's got to be that if we've got a really, really good pitch, when we come to things like loan signings and a lot of these Premiership sides, you know, they want their guys that are coming out of the academies, the Louis Barrys, they want them to play football, don't they? They don't want to come to the old Newport County style. So if we're putting a really top quality pitch out there to play football on, that might encourage, you know, more loan signings, that type of thing. So again, it's lovely. We went to obviously, you know, all the grounds last year. You know, with respect, places like Sutton, they had to dig their ground up. They had to change it from plastic, didn't they? But one thing I will say about pitches, and one thing about Ghana going, is that hopefully the new incumbent doesn't use the pitch as an excuse for us not playing well. That went on too long last year, like Rochdale was an example. You know, the pitches are what they are. We've got to be able to play on all of them. So.
Yeah, exactly. Lee says Marcus and his staff have always done a fantastic job. Massive thanks to the volunteers from the STFC Community Foundation to help lay the germination sheeting. Well done all. Always massive congratulations to the volunteers of the STFC Community Foundation and the people who work there. A magnificent job, which we've said many times on this. And just finally, James, is it true we're having a brand new PA system installed as well? Do we know that?
Yeah, they're looking at a number of things in the close season. Obviously, the turnstiles, looking at some new systems as well, ultimately to help with some of the ticketing and some of the issues that we've had this season. But yeah, the PA system's being looked at and upgraded. So hopefully next season we won't be complaining about not being able to hear updates and it being not loud enough, etc. So yeah.
Okay. Paddy says, agree wholeheartedly. Marcus, I'll get to you in a second, Liam, to read this out. Marcus Cassidy is one of the best in business. The pitch he gives us is just fantastic. Sorry, Liam, what were you going to say?
Oh, forgive me. I said it'd be good to hear XTC every time we score.
It would. It's always good to hear XTC. Let's be fair. Whenever they're on. Right, Chris, I think we've just about covered everything. We've done the new technical director. We've done, well, everything really, I think, that we know at the moment.
Yeah, we have. We've covered most things that we can talk about at the moment. So brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Again, we hit the 320 mark again tonight, which is fantastic. We will be back. If there's anything goes on this week, Vic and I will have a conversation and try and get back if there is anything to talk about. If not, we will be back next Monday. It might be a panel, or if we can arrange it, it might be on the sofa. We're talking to a couple of people, so we'll try and fit one of those in. On that note, if there is anybody that you would like us to get hold of to go on the sofa, please let us know. And we can...
Not Ben Garner.
Ben Garner.
Oh, I'd love to talk to Ben Garner. We could get him on. Fabulous.
And Ben Chorley as well, then.
Oh, absolutely.
Why not? Why not? And somebody's just said Richie Wellens. So, hey, there you go. So we'll have them all on. We'll have a panel of ex-managers and directors of football.
Oh, we did Richie Wellens. We did him when he left. So why not do Ben Garner? Let's get him on.
Yeah. I promise I won't cry on that one. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for watching. And we will be back next week, if not before. Okay, thank you.
Cheerio.
Bye.